Eleonore, the question of mentality is a controversial one, of course, and one of the ways we have to apprehend what mind is to see where it is on the phylogenetic scale in animals and chimps and dolphins, and as you go down where mind is and where it isn't. And so I want to put you in a theistic context, and in your belief that there is a God, that God created everything, and certainly God created humans and animals, with the evolution or however so. What then is the differentiating factor between human and animals, and what can we say about animal mentality?
Well, there are two questions in what you asked me. One is a metaphysical question, and one is an empirical scientific question. So on the empirical scientific question, what can we say about the mentality of animals? I, of course, don't have credentials to speak, but I do read the people who have the credentials to speak. And as far as I can see, in the last 20 or 30 years, we've had an outpouring of research that suggests that animals are more smart than we had supposed, that animals can engage in social behaviors to a degree we had not previously supposed, and so on. So the new research seems to me to suggest that there's a great deal more to animal minds than we had previously thought. But as I say, I don't have credentials to speak on that subject. I am only a mildly self-educated amateur. But on the first of the questions that were there in your question to me, how are we different from the animals? I would say something like this. I would say the patristic philosopher Boethius, who could not have been more influential in the history of Western thought than he was, he famously said, a person is an individual substance of a rational nature. That's a fine definition, but I myself think it's not really on target. I think it would be much better to say a person is an individual substance to whom one can appropriately, reasonably say you. And what makes humans different from the other beasts is that a human being has the potentiality, when addressed as you, to say you in return, or to engage in return in a way that evinces a you, for example. That's what makes humans different. But in the case of the non-human beasts, what we find is that very many of them are capable of some kind of personal relation, even if they can't say you in return. They can still be appropriately addressed as you. And I myself think of that situation, that feature of the beast, I think of it this way. It is part of Aristotelian metaphysics bequeathed to the West that all things that exist preserve somehow a trace of being. They participate in being, as we say. So the 10 categories, the 10 Aristotelian categories of everything there is, are categories of being. Somehow being is in those categories. Substance, quality, quantity, relation, and the rest. But that's a pagan view. That's a pagan worldview. And on the worldviews of Judaism and Christianity, at the ultimate foundation of all there is not only just being, there is something that has a mind and a will, something that can meet you face to face, something that can address you as you. And on the idea that everything that there is participates in the fundamental nature of reality, which is the Creator, it is then the case on this view that everything has a trace not just of being, but also has a trace of personhood, I do not mean what I think the panpsychists mean. I don't believe that molecules somehow have a sort of primitive proto-consciousness or anything along those lines. I don't mean that. But I mean that there is a sense in which personhood is relational. It's not an intrinsic feature of a thing by itself. It's a feature of a thing had in relation to something else, where the something else is the creator. So in the book of Job, God says you, not just to all the animals, but God says you even to inanimate things, the sea, the lightning. God says to the sea, so far let your proud waves go and no further. And in the New Testament, when Christ means to punish the fig tree, he doesn't say, let this fig tree be blasted, or just blast it away without any kind of speech. He talks directly to the tree. And he says, you, to the tree. He says, let no man eat fruit of you forever. So it's like this. Maybe when confronted with its creator, anything can respond to the creator in second personal experience because it's the creator that calls to it. You couldn't do that. You're too small. If you said you to the fig tree, you'd just be, ridiculous or pompous, whatever. But for the creator, you might say, nothing is just a machine. Even a really bad tree or a really proud ocean isn't just a machine, not just a whole reducible to the sum of its parts, but something that can respond to what made it, and to respond to what made it in some kind of way that reflects the creator, who is something with a mind and a will. So that's the way it looks to me.